It was past 10 o'clock at night. The babysitter, lounging on the armchair, could no longer keep her eyes open. The children had fallen asleep next to her on the sofa, and the only sound in the house was the tick-tock of the clock on the wall. The house was submerged in a heavy silence, when suddenly the phone rang.
The babysitter jumped up and walked over to the landline phone, which sat on a small table in the hallway. She picked up the receiver.
"Hello?" she said. But the person on the other end gave no reply. All that could be heard was the sound of someone's deep, raspy breaths. Annoyed, the babysitter said, "Hello? Who is this?" Suddenly, a short, nervous laugh came through, and the call ended with a loud click. The babysitter thought to herself that it must have been a crossed line and paid it no mind. But half an hour later, the phone rang again with the same loud, sudden ring. It was the same sound of heavy breathing. This time, a quiet, deep voice whispered, "I'm watching you." And the call disconnected again. A chilling fear crept over her. She got up and drew all the thick curtains in the house. She peeked through a gap in the curtains, but the street was dark and completely deserted. It must be some creep, she told herself. At 11 o'clock, the phone rang for a third time. With trembling hands, the babysitter picked up the receiver. The same voice said, "There isn't much time left." The babysitter shouted in anger, "Who are you? What do you want?" The man just laughed and hung up. She couldn't take it anymore. While her finger trembled, she dialed the operator's number and quickly explained the situation. The operator, his voice crackling over the line, said, "Please don't hang up so I can trace the call." A few moments of deathly silence passed. The babysitter could only hear the sound of her own heart. Finally, the operator's worried voice came through the phone. "Ma'am, these calls, they're coming from inside the building, from the upstairs apartment." The phone fell from the babysitter's hand. Her entire body had gone cold. The upstairs apartment had been empty and sealed for years. No one had lived there since their old neighbor, Mr. Summers, had died. Terrified, she woke the children, rushed to the front door, and threw the chain and the iron lock. She hugged the crying children and led them to the dark closet under the stairs. All three of them hid in the silence and darkness of the closet. Only then did she remember that she hadn't called the police. The only phone in the house was in the hallway. As they waited in silence and fear, a sound suddenly came from above their heads. The sound of heavy, uneven footsteps walking slowly across the wooden floor above. The footsteps stopped right above the closet. Then came the sound of something being dragged across the floor. The babysitter knew she had to call the police. She begged the children to stay quiet and slowly crept out of the closet. She tiptoed to the phone in the hallway. With trembling fingers, she dialed the police. As soon as the call connected, she whispered the address in the quietest voice she could manage, placed the receiver back, and quickly returned to the closet. A few minutes later, which felt like an eternity, the sound of police sirens filled the street. The babysitter crept to the door and opened it for the police, who entered the house.
2 officers went upstairs and broke down the door to the apartment, which was covered in dust. But when they came back, they had bewildered expressions on their faces. One of them said to the babysitter, who was holding the children tightly, "Ma'am, there's no one upstairs. All the furniture is under white sheets and the place is full of cobwebs. There's a very old telephone up there, covered in dust. It's clear no one has touched it in a very long time. Your phone line must have gotten crossed with another one somewhere else."
When the children's parents arrived in their old car, the babysitter, still pale and trembling, told them what had happened. The father tried to calm her down. "It must have been a technical problem, just like the officer said. Not a soul has set foot up there since Mr. Summers passed away." The babysitter put on her coat to go home. At the door, the little girl ran to her and grabbed the hem of her coat. The babysitter knelt down and tried to smile.
"I'm going now, sweetie. You be a good girl."
The little girl looked into the babysitter's eyes and said in a quiet, emotionless voice, "That man upstairs was very sad that you called the police." Her parents looked at her in surprise. Her mother asked, "Which man, honey?" The little girl pointed to the top of the dark stairs and continued with a strange smile. "The man who was in the hallway. He said he can't play with us tonight, but he promised to visit us again. He said from now on, he'll always be waiting for us upstairs." A heavy silence filled the room. The babysitter stared at the spot the girl was pointing to. In the darkness at the end of the hallway, for a single moment, she felt as if she saw a tall shadow standing there, but it vanished almost immediately.